to GangStalking and Targeted Individuals. The show is being recorded, and anything said on this recording will go into the public domain, as all of the other recordings that I've done. The public is entitled and encouraged to republish any part of this recording or all of it without permission, notification, or attribution. The time out here on the West Coast is 10:10 p.m. on Thursday, January 19, 2011. To find more of these audios, visit VancouverWATI.com or search TalkShoe for Vancouver or show number 87161. And please keep trying to find me. I've been told that my shows are mysteriously not appearing in people's searches. I was anyway up until tonight, live every night at 11 p.m. Eastern. That's 8 p.m. here on the West Coast time zone, plus many unscheduled times daily. So should this show not appear, please keep trying to find by clicking on the Live Now button on the top left corner of the screen, or search the top right corner for Vancouver. This is episode number 1099. Okay, here's what happened. I'm doing this totally off the cuff and unscripted. My show, number 87161 on TalkShoe, became compromised. I'm not sure how. I believe it is with some buttons that people at TalkShoe did, and it's their website. They can do what they want to do. I've given them no grief. I just want to shine a light, though, on what they do. And if they're doing anything funny, it's because they're being pressured into it. Recently, I have renamed my show to Stalkers, FBI, Masons, and Scientology. And there are many more that are involved in this stalking of targeted individuals. But these three kingpins are the real filth. These guys are really, really bad, and they harass targeted individuals. I emphasize, this may be my last recording. It may not, number 1099. What happened was, tonight earlier, they took away my ability to have a show be medium, PG rated. There's G, PG, and EL. They forced me to go to explicit language, and I have to admit that I have used some strong language. But I'd heard it said on other calls, so I thought it was okay, and I've had this show on here for 16 months, and I've never had any grief about it from TalkShoe or anybody else. But recently, like in the last 10 days or so, I started to get some grief about it from them, and I, for all practical purposes, ceased any expletives, and I'm on live every night. Anyway, I want to unmute. I've got 5 people in the room. I've got Jim, 9906, and I want to hear what he has to say if he wants to type something in. But what's happened now is I did change my show to EL, explicit language, and now I can't get back in. The only reason I'm able to do this recording, and as I said, it's unscripted, is because I was already logged in, and so it may end at any moment. I hold no ill regard towards TalkShoe if they're TalkShoe.com. If they're doing anything, they're doing it because they're required to do it. They're being pressured to do it. The dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking skanks at the FBI, at the stinking Freemasons, and the filthy Scientologists. They're pushing them to do this. And I won't shut up. Now, you might notice that I've used some pushy language on here, but I don't believe I'm not breaking terms of service. And I do feel that way about these scumbags, because these scumbags, what they're doing is they're harassing targeted individuals, TIs, such as myself and many others. And that's their job. They're filth. The FBI, which is run by the dirty, rotten, stinking Freemasons. Again, this is in the public domain, so please do feel free to take any part of this or all of it and use it as you see fit. And I do hope that this this show number 87161 will be on, stay online here. So what I've done is, starting about 16 months ago, I found TalkShoe. About 3 months before that, in May of 2010, I discovered that I was a targeted individual. I mean, I'd known I'd been screwed with and harassed, but they're so secretive about it. The harassers are so good at it. They just F with you big time. And you don't have a clue what's going on. And for me, that started in April of 2006. And it wasn't until May of 2010 I found a webpage by GMB Bailey, a wonderful Canadian, on, I forget the name of the Portland, Oregon website. I'm right across the river, by the way, here in Vancouver, Washington. Once again, you can find my website at vancouverwati.com. This may be my last show that I can do on TalkShoe. It may be that my water has been totally cut off. I don't know. It may be that weird things are happening online. I'm not able to log in. Again, the only reason I can do this show is because I was already logged in, and I took it upon myself to do this. Hopefully not my last show. Hopefully this is just will turn out not to be true, but I have to believe the filth at freedomfchs.com. Remember that. Just remember, there's this one guy out here in Vancouver, Washington, called a pseudonym, vancouverwati.com. That's me. Thinks that they're total filth. I'm talking about from the top down. I'm talking they're totally scumbags. That's their job. The filth at freedomfchs.com is to be filth. That's their filthy, stinking job. To sound crazy. So they take something like, and I decided early on, this just sounds crazy, where some of the things are true and some of the things are far-fetched. And so I came to the conclusion that they were crazy talkers, and I decided fairly early on in my show, which started about September of 2010, I decided my show is only going to be about what happens to me. I'm not going to talk about all that other crazy stuff that the shill shows talk about. And when I'm talking about the shill shows, I'm talking about Derek, the president, Chrissy, the vice president, who's been on the show she's been on her header show on again, off again, mostly off. Filthy Joe, he's got a show on 5 nights a week. You got Nigel, he's got his show on Tuesday nights. And they're all crazy talk shows. You've got there's a whole army of them. You got Foster, who I really like, and Jay Wojciechowski, who I really like, but I can't help but think, I started recordings. In fact, I did recordings with both of those characters, Jay Wojciechowski, and it's here. It's on 87161 at talkshoe.com. And I started recordings, and what these guys did is they waited until the recording started, and then they started to spew the crazy talk. Or they just let, especially Nigel, the dirty, stinking filth. I tell you, it was just, I wouldn't even publish a couple of the early ones, and I was trying to be polite, but I just realized afterwards, this is a ploy. This is a ploy to make the whole thing about gang stalking, organized stalking of TIs, of targeted individuals, to make it sound crazy. That's what they want to do. That's their job. I don't know if these guys are TIs or targeted individuals or not. I really don't know. It would seem like maybe they know a lot about it, but they just go on and on about the craziest stuff. And so I decided the only thing that I'm going to talk about on my show is what happens to me, the organized stalking. I get harassed on the street, and it was amazing starting in April of 2006 and thereafter, and it was just incredible. They moved people in next to me when I was living in an RV. They moved a cop in next door to me when I lived in my last place. The guy before me mysteriously died. The guy before that at an RV lot, the guy had his life threatened, and he was gone a day later, and they moved somebody else in who immediately started perping. When I moved into this place here, and again, you're moving like every 6-8 months. When I moved here, I didn't know if this was the exact unit I wanted, but it was available, and the landlord was gracious enough to say, okay, you can stay there. The landlord had no advance notice that I was coming here. I came here, poof, I wrote a check, and they let me move in. I don't think they heard, as I've heard it called, the negative narrative. I don't think they had heard that about me until afterwards. But it's about 10 days after I moved in, I said, okay, that's the place I want. That's the place I want. I don't want to go anywhere else. And the day afterwards, one day after that, July, August, September, I don't know when it was, the end of August or September, it was like the first 6 days, the guy that lived next door to me, who I had never even met before, told me that he brought somebody home, and the guy OD'd in his bathroom. Now, this guy doesn't look like a drug head. This guy, and he's got a great-looking woman living in there with him, and they moved out. The day after I said, I want to stay here in this place here in Vancouver, downtown, the heart of downtown Vancouver. But he told me that he even came back. I told him, well, I'll live next door to you. And he came back and knocked on the door. Can I have some bags? And I said, sure, so I gave him a couple of dozen grocery bags. Take them with you, pal. And he told me more about what happened to him. But this guy didn't look like the kind of guy. But what I'm telling you is, if the filthy perps want you, they'll get you. If they want to run, and they don't, but from what I have been able to ascertain, they don't want to kill you. They just want to screw with you slowly. It's kind of like the little kid that wanted to torture the caterpillar, when he was killing it, to slowly see it die. That's what these that's what they do. And that's who I believe TalkShoe is beholden to when they are pushed into doing this. What else can I tell you? Once again, this may be my last call. I had to make it EL rated, which means explicit language, which means I can't have guests that log in anymore. They had to be logins. Okay, I can put up with that. I had quite a few people on the show tonight. You can read the chat log by going to Chat Grabber and read this log. There you go. I don't know what else I can tell you. What I can tell you is targeting is real. It happens to TIs, targeted individuals. Google the terms GangStalking, harassment, targeted individual. Google any of those terms, and what you'll find probably is about 2/3 of it is crazy talk. And I'm telling you that talk is planted there by crazy talkers. That's what they do. They're paid crazy talkers, like the stink of Derek and Joe and Nigel. That's what they do. They talk crazy. And then they act so hurt that you would be so presumptuous to say they had anything. Oh, you don't believe me, Vancouver. Why do you call me a crazy talker? Because they are. That's what they do. If it looks like it and stinks like it and smells like it, it's it. Now, once again, notice that I haven't used any expletives on this recording. I'm probably going to get booted off this show, and I won't be able to get back on. This may be the last show. This is TalkShoe.com, show number 87161. Let me tell you something else. I want you to know this, that pretty much 80 to 95% of the people that hang out on these TalkShoe shows, the crazy talker shows of the aforementioned, 80 to 95% of them are crazy talkers. That's what they do. And they don't start, you know what I've noticed so many times is they don't start sounding crazy. They don't start it until there's usually a rift, and that's when they do it. That's when they do it. And that's what they'll be doing. So if you're Derek or Filthy Joe or Crazy Chrissy or Nasty Nigel, if you're any of those four people, I have no respect for you whatsoever. I'm telling you, I know that you're filthy. I think you're filthy Masons. That's what I think. Filthy, stinking, degenerate Freemasons. I think that is the job of Freemasonry. Have you put anything on YouTube, says Jimmy? Not very much. I've done everything on TalkShoe, and I've got like 60, 70 recordings. Probably half of which I've thrown away, 20, 30 of them, because they appeared not to be true. It appeared that the shills come on the show, they wait till you start the recording, and then what they want to do, they want to ruin it. And then they start talking crazy. And that's what they do, I'm telling you. And, but pretty soon you get wise to it. What their scam is. So there you have it. My name is VancouverWATI.com. That's a website that I encourage you to go to. It's got a number of the recordings that were done on TalkShoe here. I do hope they at least leave, if they're going to give me the boot, I hope they at least leave these shows out there for people to listen to. The filth at Freedom SCHS, the dirty, rotten, stinking filth operation. They don't care about truth. They want to bury the truth. They want to flood the truth with crazy talk. That is their job. There's a number of other people that they have in their room, on all those rooms that I mentioned, and they're always spewing the crazy talk. But they mix it. Now keep this in mind, that they mix the crazy talk with truth, and you can't tell the difference unless it's happening to you. You can't tell the difference. Okay, I think I'm making this recording too long, unless Jimmy has something else to say. By the way, what happens to people when they're on these calls is they lose their connection, and then they can't get back on. And the person that gets back on is a crazy talker. That's what, and make no mistake, I absolutely believe that. I've seen it a number of times where it was one intellect that I was talking to in the chat room, or responding to their chats, responding via voice. And then all of a sudden, a crazy talker, it just happens again and again and again. The biggest thing, number one thing that the filth wants to do is they want to keep targeted individuals apart. Now keep that in mind. I really hope you believe me. And the way they do that is they'll interrupt you on the street. If you're carrying on a conversation with another target, you'll be interrupted, and one with a cell phone will ring or a commotion will happen or something. It'll stop that conversation. That's what the filth wants to do. And I'm not saying that the aforementioned people are involved in that, but that's what happens to TIs. And the other thing they do, they will lay a negative narrative on you. They will make you, in one way or another, they will make you believe that that other person did this or that, or they stay away from him. Boy, I'll tell you, whatever you do, stay away from him or her. And they're probably saying the same thing to them, but they don't really care how they do it, as long as they get you apart. Remember that. Do not forget that. If you are a TI, a target, that is a number, and the biggest thing they want to do is isolate the target. They want to tear them apart from their family. They don't care how they do it, as long as it's pulled off. And to make sure, continually make sure that the targets are isolated. Book it. You can absolutely book that. I'm going to go ahead and unmute a bunch of guests, probably half of whom are going to flood, in which case I will, but we'll see what they have to say, in which case I'm going to mute. So So if you have something to say, type it in really fast. But I did notice that JIMM9906 abruptly left. He was given some good questions, and poof, he left. And that happens all the time. By the way, JIMM9906, if I click on his, I can't click on him anymore, so I can't find out what his number was. Typically, if they've got the same number as they did last time, and it's well below 3 million, you know that it's probably a real person. And the makeups are usually closer to 3 million. It happens all the time, again and again. But now I actually believe that the perps have the ability to emulate that number also. Oh, that's a good idea. Van caught on to that one, so let's make it the same number. I don't know how they do it. I'm just telling you, there must be a perp or two employed at TalkShoe. They can't, and when I say perp, I mean a filthy, stinking Freemason, a dirty, rotten, filthy, skankhead Freemason, or Scientologist, or FBI, or they're bowing to pressure, because that's what they do. They can't help it. And it's not really their fault if they bow to pressure. They're just doing what they had to do. They're pressured. What are you going to do when you're pressured by the FBI? Can you imagine the wrath of God they can sick on you? And I can tell you, I've been harassed on the street, immensely harassed by, I mean, literally dozens of people beginning in, as I said, in April of 2006. It was amazing. How can that be? How can so many people be involved in it? Well, I think they schedule it. I don't. These guys and girls, they're degenerates. I'll give you an example. And then I'm going to cut this off because I don't want this to be too long of a recording. But there was this Fred Meyer grocery store that I went to, and as I was ready to take my parking spot, somebody swooped it away. And they knew what kind of a parking spot I wanted, because I wanted the kind you could drive in and be able to drive out. And I always was real picky about that. But they take that as I arrived at the store. As I'm going into the store, there'd be somebody that would step out in front of me at the last second in front of a pillar. Oh, excuse me, I'm a fairly polite guy. I may use some profanity every now and then, but I say excuse me if I bump into somebody or what have you. And then as I'm walking down the aisles, I'm going to buy this certain product on the aisle. There'd be some lady, and she'd be reading a soup can label or something like that. And just as I'm ready to grab my product, woof, she'd push her. That's the kind of harassment that they do. And she'd push her cart in front of me. And then as I arrive at the end of the aisle, there'd always be somebody just as you get there. And then as I departed the store, I go to a self-checkout lane, which I really like about Fred Meyer stores. And I always wanted cash out of the machine, but they would always never be there. So the machine wouldn't give the cash, and I couldn't find the caretaker. So it could take me 5 minutes. And it's happened not just one time. These things that I just mentioned happen every friggin' time I went to that store on exit 12 on Interstate 205 in Portland. It just happened all the time. And as I'm walking out of the store, somebody would walk out in front. And this happened like every time, many, many, many times. And then another one I have to tell is, and this happened like 3 or 4 times, as I was driving south on Interstate 205 over the Washington border, over the Columbia River, in other words, and into Oregon. There'd be like, I've seen it talked about since as a floating box, that the FBI skankheads refer to this as a floating box, where they get you trapped in. So I'm a left lane driver, and there'd be somebody in front of me and behind me and 2 to the side of me. And then after about the 3rd or 4th trip, the lady in front of me jammed on her brakes on the pickup truck, white pickup truck, late model, excuse me, in front of me. And And I could have stopped in time, except the guy behind me tapped me into her, doing no damage to his vehicle or mine, doing very little damage to the front end of my vehicle. It was like a $2,000 hit. So she cleaned up. She got $2,000 out of it. Or the syndicate that she works for got $2,000 out of it. My insurance rates went up 2.5 times. That's the kind of crap they do. But I didn't think about that it was all part of the stalking at the time. I didn't realize that until I gotten it to Vancouver back again, and the harassment started, and until I'd found TalkShoe, and then I'd realized that what they do is it's all one big package. This harassment deal. It's all one huge package of head screwing that they do. And I go, oh, God, that explains why the one guy moved in next door to me and started turning his lights on and sunbathing on it at midnight, that explains why the floating box, if you Google that term, floating box, FBI, that explains it, and the soup thing, that was just one example. There were dozens of times when I'd be walking down the street, there would be people screwing with me, like stepping out in front of me, making me go around them. A lot of times with people involved in a wheelchair, somebody sitting there in a wheelchair and 2 or 3 people standing around them, or I literally had to walk out on the street to get around them. That was like fairly frequent occurrence, that type of thing. I wish I'd have kept track of them all. But you're going to believe me or you're not, that this issue of organized stalking occurs or not. It's up to you. What I'm telling you is I hope that, once again, this recording is in the public domain. It's yours. You can do with it as you want. I hope you use it well. I hope you will get the word out to organized TIs, to targets, that this is real, that they're not dreaming it, that they're mobbing. That's what these filthy guys do. That's their job. They're filthy mobbers, and the scumbags here that have the 4, 5, 6 people whose names that I mentioned, that have TalkShoe shows. What I'm telling you is they're running cover. They may not know what they're running cover from. They may not know. They have to know their filth. They have to know that. You can't do what you're doing and not know you're filthy, but I don't know if they know how filthy they are. I don't think I know how filthy they are. I just keep finding out things. I'm going to give you a phone number here, just in case this is my last recording. This phone number, I'm not going to answer the phone. If it rings, you'll have to leave a message and tell me that it's okay if I call you back. And if unless it's a good message, I'm probably just going to zap it. That phone number is area code 360-334-2348. Once again, the phone number it will ring right on this cell phone, and then I probably won't answer. So it's up to you if you want to leave your name and number, but it needs to sound authentic, because if it doesn't, I'm not going to return it. And I'll probably push the 7 key and won't even listen to the end of it. Once again, that phone number is area code 360-334-2348. And by the way, any call that I get on that phone is it's like a closed loop system. I put it on, God, I forget the name of the website. I think it's VancouverWATI.com/ God, I forget. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. But you'll find it. If you want to talk to me, I encourage you to give me a call. If you're a target, I want this issue out on. What I'm telling you, I want to advertise this issue. This issue is just horrendous. These filth bags, and what I think it is, it's organized crime. That's what I think it is. And by the way, I don't think that the police. Somebody said to post the number. Yes, I will post the number. They typed that into the chat room. The police are afraid of this issue. I've talked to attorneys. Hang on, I'm going to type that in. 360-334-2348. Hang on, I'm sorry. 360-334-2348. Is my number. I am VancouverWatia.com. I want to tell you about the police. They're scared of this deal. If they don't play ball, they're the next target. These targeters, they're different every time. If once you get away from home, a couple of 5 minutes away from wherever you live, they're different every time. I'm telling you, they rotate. I don't know how the heck they do it. It's just amazing. It must be an incredibly sophisticated program that they do to keep track of this. Like they keep track of whether Tom here was after Van here, or what have you. They know who's harassed who and when. It's incredible. I'm telling you, there have been times when I've been out and I got harassed, slandered, people walking by me saying things that had to be targeting to me. They had to be. And somebody different every time. Probably 20, 30 times. I want to tell you about a video store that I used to go to every day. It was the Hollywood Video down on Highway 99 in Portland. And as I was walking in there one day, there were like, as I got out of my truck, people knew the filth, the targeters that were harassing me knew that if I'm driving down that area on that street, there's about an 80% probability I'm going to go into that Hollywood Video. And sure enough, as I went in and got my movie, excuse me, as I'm walking out of the store, there were like, I don't know, 20 or 30 people, all eye to eye, all young, looked like they worked for an insurance company or they were with a church or something. They were short-sleeved. They had ties on, about half chicks, half guys, and they were talking way above their, louder than you need to talk. And I couldn't get through them. They were being schmucks. That's what they were told to do. Now, can I prove that? No, you can't prove it. But finally, I gently put my hand on a couple of the guy's shoulders and pushed a little bit, and poof, they scatter in every direction. And they were gone in no time. How can that happen? How can that be? Did I dream it? No, I didn't dream it. It happened. That's what they're paid to do. They're paid to screw with targets. That's their job. I'll tell you another time about I used to go to a church in the midday, and one day there were like, I don't know, probably 40, I don't know, a whole bunch of people showed up, and they went through all the motions that would happen at a church, and that's what they did. Can you prove it? No. There was another time when I went to the mall in Vancouver, out on 205, and I went in, and they knew I would be going there because I was picking up a pair of eyeglasses in this store. And I went in, and as soon as I got in there, the whole lobby of that eyeglasses store flooded with people. And there were probably, I don't know, 30 people. God, how can that be? None of them buying anything. They were just hanging out to screw with you. That's their job. That's what gang stalkers do. And after a while, that starts to wear on you. And what I'm telling you is, if you think the stories I'm telling you are far-fetched, if you think the stories that I'm telling you now are far-fetched, you ought to hear some of the stories that these filthy crazy talker shows talk about. They go way off. There's no way it could be true. That's what they do. They're paid. So anybody who thinks that there's no filth involved, anybody who thinks that there's no filth involved on these talk shows here on TalkShoe.com, on these targeting individual shows, and there's one every night at 6 p.m. Pacific time. That's 9 p.m. on the East Coast time zone. There's one every night, and sometimes 2 or 3. It just depends. So anybody that says, oh no, it's all true, and not only that, but you are forbidden to say anything. These guys are able to run off at the mouth with absolute impunity and spew crap. There's and anybody that's halfway rational, a tenth rational, leaves there and just shakes their head. They don't realize it's all put on. It's one big put on. It's intended to make targeting sound unreal, and that's what the filth at freedom, FCHS.com does. That's their job. They're filthy. That's their job. And so now, I'm the only guy here on TalkShoe.com. I'm the only friggin' show, number 87161 on TalkShoe. Search for Vancouver, and you will find that show. I'm the only guy that will talk about the filth that's involved. You are forbidden to talk about everything that's said on Filthy Joe or Derek or Nigel's shows. It's all true. It's all true. And by the way, regarding those 3 guys, about a year ago, this is the date now is January of 2012. Well, in 2011, TalkShoe shut down all the TI shows, except for those 3 who they left on the homepage as rotating, right? And then about a month later, they finally put the shows back. You know, let me repeat that. TalkShoe.com left the filthiest of the filthy, the craziest of the crazy, filthy Derek, Joe, and Nigel. He left those calls. They left them on the homepage, but they booted everybody else off. Everybody else was kicked off, and the shows didn't appear on the homepage or the Live Now page. You actually had to click a button called Live Now up in the top left corner of the screen, you know. And then but there were a number of people that started new shows. They just, every time their show got kiboshed, they'd start a new show. And somebody go, they're scratching their head. Well, what happened was, they were getting flooded, you know, with these new shows. But anyway, about February 1 of 2011, just less than a year ago, they re-enabled those shows so that now everybody could start talking again. And you know, I think what happens is another issue I want to bring up, and that is that just because somebody is a perp now, just because somebody was clean a month ago, a year ago, probably not a year ago, but a month or 2 or 3 ago, just because somebody was clean then doesn't mean they're clean now. They get compromised. They get pushed. They get threatened. Their family gets threatened. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to keep the targeting off of your children? How much are you willing to compromise yourself? Are you willing to become a stinking perp? Is that what happened to the 3 names that I mentioned earlier? Is that what happened? Is that why they're filthy? Or are they stinking Masons? Tell me why. I don't know. I don't know which one it is, and you're never going to get them to admit it. But if you listen to some of the recordings of those guys, if you believe all that crap, good for you. I don't believe it. You know, and you don't know what to believe, though. Anyway, I'm going to do a shutdown. Somebody says, Van, are you able to work? And are you employed? And I work on the internet, and it's getting harder and harder to do. But I do work on the internet. Let me see what else. Please post a number. I did post a phone number. TalkShoe is not allowing anyone to log on to Van's show for some reason, says Robbie Weasel. So, That's the login name anyway. Who knows who that is? And if I click on the home page, and if I click on Live Now, well, one thing you have to do, you have to have my show does show up. I wouldn't count on that show showing up tomorrow. That show, and this whole, the ability that I have this show, this recording that I'm doing right now, it was a fluke. They didn't see through that. But quickly thinking, I did the recording. Call still is being recorded. I have nobody else. Somebody from Northeast California wants to talk if they would say who they were. I'm not going to screw this recording up. You take this recording or not. You do with it as you wish. You believe it or not, it's up to you. What I'm telling you is there is this issue on the street where you live, and it's called targeting. To where people are being harassed, amazingly harassed. They've been blacklisted, probably by the filthy skank-ass Freemasons. They've probably been blacklisted. They're using amazingly, enormously effective law enforcement resources. The resources that they use is incredible. They know when you're walking down the street, they know where you're going because you've done that before. And there's no, trust me, I totally, all this wacky, crazy talk that they talk about, I don't believe it. I don't friggin' believe it. They're making it up. They want to make everything into voodoo, but that's what the Nigels of the world do. They talk voodoo. Voodoo. Oh, it's all crazy talk. It's all true, they say. I haven't seen any new questions, but that is the end of this recording. I'm going to hit the end button now. That's going to terminate this recording. And then I'm going to hit the X, which is going to kill this show. And I hope that the show stays live. I hope that they at least leave this show live. That would be the nice thing for TalkShoe to do. I'm convinced that TalkShoe is, if they're dirty, they're only dirty because they're required to be. And only if they have a filthy Freemason or two involved in their ointment. Because if they are filthy Freemasons, they're not for you. They're not for you and I, pal. They're for their stinking society. The dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking Freemasons. That's what they're for. They're not for you and I. Trust me. With that, I'm going to end off on this recording. Robbie says you muted the TalkShoe people. You don't know who the TalkShoe people are. There's like 7. I've had 7 or 8 people log in and claim to be TalkShoe. You don't know who you're muting because they can make up pseudonames. It happens all the time. Anyway, I'm going to hit the end of the recording. So long.